Inside the Surrey Hills collection. Our largely paper-based collection dates from the late 1970s and is jam-packed into one small room of the cottage at the Surrey Hills Neighbourhood Centre, where a small group of volunteers seek and document new donations, try to unravel and link material passed on to us by past volunteers, and assist members of the public with their historical research. Without volunteers, collections like ours gather dust and become inaccessible. Our volunteers have their own dedicated roles and ongoing projects in terms of documenting and managing the collection. Not surprisingly, photos are the backbone of the collection and provide clues to our changing environment and the way we used to live. In this short presentation, we aim to show you something of our work as we step back in time with some of our treasures. We'll start with this wonderful Zenith ice cream poster. It's a bit of a conundrum in that its provenance is at this time a mystery. The current team have inherited boxes of papers of notes, drafts and correspondence from the previous coordinator. Part of the frustration and fascination of documenting the collection is connecting this handwritten material with past donations. Until recently, the history of milk bars has not been well documented. We know anecdotally that there are a number of milk bars in our area that sold Zenith's ice cream, and for the moment assume that this came from one of them. Significantly, it is signed Northfield. Its designer was Isaac James Northfield, one of Australia's foremost poster artists. After training in Geelong, he moved to Melbourne, where he served an apprenticeship with one of the city's leading lithographic printers. In about 1932, he set up his own studio in Flinders Street. He went on to have one of the longest careers in Australian commercial art. You're probably familiar with some of his travel posters commissioned by the Victorian Railways and the Australian National Travel Association. In 1956, he designed material for the Olympic Games. The late Alan Holt was a passionate local historian who grew up in Surrey Hills. In his working life, he rose to become Secretary of the Lands Department of the state government. He was meticulous in his work. His legacy is a collection that includes thousands of index cards, notated maps, research files and 4 registers documenting the history of properties in Mont Albert and Surrey Hills between 1890 and 1980. For each property, there is an entry at the beginning of each decade stating the name and occupation of the occupant. Where they are known, house names and the date of the build are also recorded. These are a great resource from which to begin compiling house histories. These are probably the second most popular theme of research requests. When family historians look for the birth notices in Trove, they find that those born in Mont Albert or Surrey Hills were very often born at Moss Giel Private Hospital. This is one of only 2 known images of it, taken when it was the home of the Shearer family. Moss Giel opened in October 1923 and until the 1960s operated as a private hospital, initially under the direction of matron Elizabeth Anderson. It served as a maternity annex of Box Hill Hospital after it opened in 1956, but was sold and subsequently demolished for units in circa 1975. Unfortunately, Moss Giel hospital records have not been able to be traced and were probably destroyed. This photo is just one in over 2,000, which are part of the legacy of the work of Jocelyn and Ken Hall. For those born at Moss Giel, in addition to the name of the doctor, the name Elizabeth Anderson or Victoria Turner may well appear on their birth certificates as a witness to their birth. For many decades, a career in nursing was one of few available to women, yet details of nursing careers can be difficult for the family historian to uncover. Registration of nurses was not mandated on a state basis until the Nurses Board was established on the 1st of July 1924. The first available list of registrations occurs in the Victorian Government Gazette of the 13th of August 1926. The registrations of Elizabeth Anderson and Victoria Turner show that the 2 women were admitted to the register on the same day and trained at the Melbourne Hospital, completing their training just months apart in 1915. The Victorian Gazettes are an extremely useful source for details about nurses and many other occupations. They contain information on everything from land transactions, bankruptcies, tenders, patent applications, unclaimed letters and monies, shipping and emigration notices, and much more. Entries can be as brief as a road closure notice or as comprehensive as a 200-page list of everyone who is registered to practice medicine in Victoria. We do not have many original artworks in our collection. This small painting by Victor Zellman is of note not only as an example of his work, but as the only known record of St Bridget's Church and School. From 1857, they stood near the corner of Warrigal and Riversdale roads and served a scattered rural population. The school, known as Nunawading School No. 464 St Bridget's, was run by the Jesuit Fathers Mission, and by 1862 there were 70 children on the roll. It closed in 1915 following the opening of our Holy Redeemer Church and School in Mont Albert Road. Victor Zellman attended the Gallery Art School in late 1890s. This painting is dated circa 1900, so is an early work, as he didn't start painting seriously until the early 1920s. The name Zellman is more often associated with music. Victor was born into a musical family. His father came to Melbourne from Italy as a conductor. Victor played in chamber orchestras and also taught at the Melbourne Conservatorium, and his brother Alberto founded the original Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. These postcard images are treasured for their documentation of early Surrey Hills. The two coloured images on the left are of originals we hold. The images on the right are copies from others from the same series. Between 1900 and 1920, postcards were incredibly popular. These ones date from circa 1906 and were produced cheaply from colourised, fairly average photography. They cost a penny to send, so people could cheaply and easily send messages without the formality of a letter to friends and relatives. The messages were typically short. We know of a collection of about 50 of these sent from the Surrey Hills branch of a family to cousins in Healesville, many simply stating when they were intending visiting. We are anxious to source originals of other scenes to complete our series. Material comes into the collection at different times and from different sources. Linking related material makes each individual item more significant. Like pieces in a jigsaw, each is a clue to recreating a picture of the past. The photo of Horry Breeden in his Jinka and the home he built at 7 Goodwood Street, Surrey Hills, are among a series that were donated to the collection by Horry before he died in 1988. In the 1990s, the then owner of 7 Goodwood Street discovered a branding iron under the house, and about 10 years ago, one of our members donated the Wattle Park dairy milk bottle, along with a rudimentary note of 1 pint extra, written to the milkman. Together they helped to tell the story of the development of this part of Surrey Hills in the post-First World War years. As a schoolboy, Horry had helped with milking at Keneally's Dairy in Highfield Road, and with delivering milk from the Croydon Road Dairy. He became an apprentice at Ryan's Timber Yard, but in 1919 he bought 3 cows and established his own dairy on his mother's property on the corner of Goodwood Street and Boysdale Road. As the post-war demand for housing grew, rural land became urban. Horry passed the dairy on to Ronald Isherwood, built the first house in Goodwood Street, and throughout the 1920s he built others in the street, including his own at No. 7 Goodwood Street. Every election, tons of paper are used to produce how-to-vote cards and leaflets. Whilst we have kept examples from recent elections, the representation of political ephemera in our collection is quite small. The only example of an early how-to-vote card is a copy of one from the 1937 state election when Ivy Webber defeated William Boylan for the seat of Nunawading in the Victorian Legislative Assembly. Other than this, the only other significant political item in the collection is the photo from 1916 or 1917 of a local pro-conscription rally. We don't know the identity of those in the photo, but they were swimming against the tide as both of Billy Hughes' plebiscites on conscription were defeated. Until recently, there was nothing in the collection about the tumultuous period of post-World War II Labour politics. That changed when we were presented with a large number of boxes and suitcases of material which came from the roof of a house in Union Road. It had been owned by the Brennan family. Thomas William Brennan, 1900 to 1966, was born in Surrey Hills. While studying law, he became a political journalist and editor of the Catholic newspaper The Tribune. Initially a member of the ALP, and from 1945 to 1955 on its state executive, Tom was part of the split in 1955 that saw the formation of the Democratic Labour Party. Amongst items of a family and general nature was a treasure trove of items providing insight into this pivotal period of Australian politics. just before we went back into lockdown, we received the generous donation of over 500 sketches in black ink on polyester drafting film of local homes. These are the work of Margaret Picken. Margaret worked as a commercial artist for several real estate firms between 1983 and 2005. Her sketches were used to create the images on real estate flyers and the ads in newspapers. This donation is significant, not only because of the artistic merit of the sketches, but as important historic records of our built heritage. They are meticulously notated. The process of fully integrating these into the collection and uploading the individual records to the Victorian Collections website will be time-consuming. They will be linked to any other material we have on each property. It is already apparent that this collection includes properties that have been demolished. In some cases, we will also have photos of the properties, but in many cases, these will be the only visual image of them. Thanks to the work of Sandra Dexter, we have a substantial collection of material relating to local World War I servicemen, but relatively little about those from the area who served in World War II. This was to have been our collecting focus for 2020, but it has been severely restricted by COVID-19. We are keen to know about those from Mont Albert and Surrey Hills who served. Chris Lobb is coordinating this project and can be contacted at chris.l.lobb@gmail.com. Local history is important. It can help you understand your ancestors in context. Simple things such as the origin of street names can help you understand the area in which you live, and the details of the lives and stories of local people can help to reveal how societal changes impacted the lives of ordinary people. Local history is worth exploring. If you have photos, stories or ephemera to share, or if we can help you with your research, or if you are interested in becoming involved in the work of collecting and sharing local history for prosperity, please contact us. In person, by email, or by commenting on catalogue entries on the Victorian Collections website, or on posts on Surrey Hills History Facebook page. Copyright Sue Barnett for Surrey Hills Historical Society, August 2020.